Tonight's gubernatorial debate is sponsored by AARP Texas. Your vote, your voice. Get voting information at aarp.org/txvotes.
KFDX 3 News, your local news authority.
Your move, Texas. The race for governor reaches a tipping point. Tonight, two Texans who want your vote go face-to-face, challenging each other with opposing views on their vision for the future of the Lone Star State. Incumbent Greg Abbott.
He wants to go, take your guns and deny you your Second Amendment rights. We will not let that happen.
Challenger Beto O'Rourke.
An abortion ban with no exception for rape or incest, that is not us. That may be Greg Abbott.
Now, in their only debate before Election Day, we go after answers on the issues you care about most. Immigration, abortion rights, gun violence, and how the heat is on in South Texas, live from the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley. The Texas Governor's Debate starts right now.
We are coming to you live from the Performing Arts Center at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley in Edinburgh for the Texas Governor's Debate. And we are so happy that you're joining us tonight. I am your host, Britt Moreno, anchor at KXAN in Austin. This debate is airing live from El Paso to Tyler and from Amarillo to Brownsville, carried by 14 Nexstar Media Group stations in Texas, as well as 5 partner TV stations. And we want y'all to join in the conversation on social media. Use the hashtag TXGovDebate. You'll see it there at the bottom of your screen. You're all here to watch these two men share their vision for the state of Texas. Asking the questions tonight are panelists. From KSAT in San Antonio, anchor Steve Spriester. My colleague at KXAN, anchor Sally Hernandez. And from the Dallas Morning News, political writer Gromer Jeffers. Candidates, let's briefly go over the rules for tonight. Each candidate will have 60 seconds for each question. If there are follow-ups, candidates will then have 30 seconds, and there will be up to 30 seconds allowed for any rebuttals. At the end of the debate, each candidate will have 30 seconds for closing statements, and when your time is up, you're going to hear this bell. And with that, let's get started. I'm going to send it over to my colleague Sally with the first question.
Britt, thank you. And again, thank you both for being here tonight. I can tell it's going to be an exciting night. Got a lot of questions to ask you both, but I just want to remind you, please pay attention to the time cues. This way, you're not talking over each other and I don't have to interrupt you, and our viewers at home can hear your answers tonight. Let's get to it. Immigration. Immigration issues are especially relevant here in the Rio Grande Valley. For years, U.S. Customs and Border Protection has ranked it as the #1 area for migrants crossing illegally along the entire southwestern border. Many communities here have suffered enormous monetary costs. Governor Abbott, let's start with you, and you have 60 seconds with this question. What would you do to alleviate the financial burden placed on these communities?
We've been working to respond to the disaster caused by the Biden administration that has caused such an economic burden on these communities. Farms and ranches are run over, communities are disrupted, homes that are invaded. Remember this, just 2 years ago, we had one of the safest borders in decades, but under the Biden administration, we have more people coming across the border than ever in the history of our country. Texas has responded by making sure that we have the National Guard and DPS deployed where they're making arrests and turning back illegal immigrants, as well as what we're doing to help local communities by busing them from the area where Border Patrol is dropping them off to sanctuary cities in northeastern parts of the country. But what we're doing is making sure that we are keeping our community safe, and this is completely different than the way things would be under Beto, because he said months ago, there is no problem on the border. He said that he would reduce immigration enforcement. He even said that 95% of people coming across the border illegally, he would allow to stay.
Okay, Mr. O'Rourke, I want to give you a chance to respond. And let me just repeat the question first for our viewers and for you. What would you do to alleviate the financial burden placed on border communities related to migrants crossing over? 60 seconds, please.
What we just heard from the governor is what we are likely to hear over the course of this debate. He's going to blame people like President Biden. He's going to try to lie about my record, and he's going to distract from his failures, whether it's his failure to keep the lights on in the grid, his failure to address school shootings, or his failure in immigration. We are 8 years into his time as governor, and this is what we have on our border. In fact, $4 billion into Operation Lone Star. We're seeing not fewer, but more encounters at our border right now. What we need is a safe, legal, orderly path for anyone who wants to come here to work, to join family, or to seek asylum. If you come to this country, we expect you to follow the law. But on our side, we're going to make sure that our laws reflect our values and our interests. And I'm going to work with local leaders, Republicans and Democrats alike, to make sure that we have a Texas-based guest worker program to alleviate shortages that we have in our state for labor demands and reduce inflation and address supply chain issues as well.
Thank you. Governor Abbott, you just heard your opponent talk about Operation Lone Star, and I have a follow-up question about that. About $4 billion in state funds has been directed to the Operation Lone Star Border Security Initiative. The program has seen its funding increase as recently as this past July. So the question, Governor, in 30 seconds if you can to answer this, should more money be allocated towards Operation Lone Star? And if so, Governor, how much?
Well, candidly, we shouldn't have to allocate any Biden's failure to do the president's job to secure the border. We're only having to do that because of Speaking in which, he talked about this guest worker program. He could have done that had he won the race for the Senate or won the race for president. That's not a job for governor. The job of governor is have to deal with the chaos caused by the Biden administration and its open border policies that Beto would replicate.
What we have is chaos thanks to Governor Abbott right now.
Okay, let me give you 15 seconds to answer the question for me. How much money should be going toward Operation Lone Star?
And I'm telling you, $0 should be going to Operation Lone Star, and that's what it would be if we had a president who was enforcing the immigration laws of the United States of America.
Mr. O'Rourke, I want to go over to you. 30 seconds for this question. It's the same one. Should more money be allocated towards Operation Lone Star?
No, it's clearly failed. The numbers are in. We're seeing not fewer but more engagements at our border. When the governor spent $4 billion of our tax dollars on what has turned out to be political theater for his political career, he promised us that it would deter people from coming to this country. We've only seen more people come. Now they get a bus ride to Chicago or Washington, D.C. or New York. We don't need any more stunts. We need solutions. We need those coming here to follow our laws. We need to make sure our laws follow our values.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. I'll give you 15 seconds, Governor.
Sure. So these are efforts to protect our state. There is a record amount of fentanyl coming across the border. This deadly, Texas law enforcement has seized enough fentanyl to kill every man, woman, and child in the entire country. And this is because of Joe Biden's policies.
Thank you, Governor Abbott. I assure you we have a lot of questions, a lot of topics to get to, and Steve has the next one.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you, gentlemen, for both being here tonight. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to continue with the immigration topic now. You've criticized the deployment of National Guard troops to the border. Here's a clip of you speaking at a March rally in College Station.
There are Guard members from Texas A&M who are on the border right now in Zapata and Webb and Hidalgo counties to go be part of a solution in search of a problem.
A solution in search of a problem. More recently, you told the Houston Chronicle that you will put some troops on the border as governor. In 60 seconds, can you explain why your view on deploying troops has seemingly changed when it comes to the border?
It hasn't. I've actually been to Zapata and Webb and to Maverick counties and listened to these members of the Guard who had less than a week to say goodbye to their families and to their careers and to their communities to be part of the governor's political theater. Those aren't my words. Those are their words. So far, we've lost the lives of 8 Guard members. 4 of them have taken their lives, and 4 of them have died in questionable circumstances, none of whom, by the way, was killed by anybody coming in to this country. These Guard members say they have no powers to arrest or detain anybody. 10,000 Guard members, $4 billion, and it's been a complete failure, much as everything that the governor has done has been a failure for this state. What we need are solutions, not more stunts. Where we can have a strategic deployment on a voluntary basis for Guard members, let's do that. I've been consistent on that. Where we can partner with local sheriffs, with DPS troopers, let's do that. But we need to work on things like a Texas-based guest worker program to meet labor needs in our communities and ensure that our laws match our values.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor, I want to talk to you. You talked about migrants and the busing of migrants. Many migrant advocates and Democratic elected officials have expressed concerns about the treatment of migrants being bused from Texas to other states and cities. Here's New York Mayor Eric Adams talking about that just last week.
And when we reached out to Governor Abbott and stated, can we coordinate? Can we identify, who's traveling here, that we don't have to guess this? They refused to do so.
The White House has called this a political stunt. Governor Abbott, is this a political stunt? And has there been coordination with the states and cities these migrants are being taken to? And if not, why not? You have 60 seconds, sir.
So this operation began after meeting with local officials, sheriffs, mayors, police chiefs, and county judges, where they were overrun with the number of migrants that Border Patrol had dumped into their tiny little communities. They needed relief, and busing was one of the ways of providing them relief, and thus began the process of busing the migrants to cities that self-identified as sanctuary cities. Mayor Adams has never called my office, never talked to anybody in my administration, and so what he's saying is just flat out false. There has been communication between non-governmental organizations in Texas as well as the ultimate location, whether it be Washington, D.C. or New York. But going back to what Beto said, what you showed on video earlier was what happens throughout this entire campaign, where Beto continues to flip-flop on issue after issue after issue. He's flip-flopped on the border issue. He's flip-flopped on the energy issue, such as energy jobs and the Green New Deal. He's flip-flopped on defunding the police. Whether it's one issue or another, he keeps changing positions.
I want to be clear, though. You say that Mayor Adams has never called your office.
Correct.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to follow up on this. You've called the busing of migrants a political stunt as well. Why shouldn't sanctuary cities share the burden of what's happening on the Texas border? You have 30 seconds.
Look, I live on the border. No one cares more about the security and safety of the border than those who are raising our children there. I also served as a city council member there. And in my time working with law enforcement, working with state and federal partners, we were able to help make El Paso, Texas, one of the safest cities in the United States of America. It's because we were looking at solutions instead of these stunts. I just want to remind everyone, this guy's been governor for 8 years, and this is where we are today. Some of the worst levels of engagement, encounters, fentanyl trafficking, and human smuggling that we've seen. That's the result of stunts instead of solutions.
Stick to the time, please. Thank you.
Steve, I've got to respond to what he just said.
Absolutely. I'll give you 15 seconds.
He mentioned El Paso. The fact of the matter is the El Paso mayor, a Democrat, the El Paso City Council, Democrats, they are now busing more people than the state of Texas is busing. And he's not calling them out for them busing people to other regions.
Completely different program. It is apples to oranges. And I'll tell you, this hateful rhetoric, this treating human beings as political pawns, talking about invasions in Texas, Texans defending themselves, that's how people get killed at the Walmart in El Paso. The gentleman in Hudspeth that we just learned about yesterday. This is incredibly dangerous for Texas and is not reflective of our values.
Okay, Governor, I want to give you 30 seconds to respond to those charges.
Sure. I mean, it's clear that Beto just wants to perpetuate the open border policies and mischaracterize exactly what's going on. He refuses to acknowledge that the city of El Paso, because they are so overwhelmed by Joe Biden's open border policies, they too are having to bus migrants out of their communities because they have no way of keeping them there. That's what we're trying to do to help our local communities and make sure that we are going to lighten the load.
No one is for open borders, not the least of us who actually live on the borders. This is the kind of stunt that you get from Greg Abbott. We need solutions right now.
I want to go to a follow-up for you, Governor Abbott, and it's on the busing question. These migrants are being sent to states and cities with Democratic leadership. Why aren't these migrants being sent to so-called sanctuary cities in Republican-led states like New Orleans or Metro Atlanta? You have 30 seconds.
So again, because these cities of New York and Washington, D.C. and Chicago are so large and have the infrastructure that's available, they have the capability of accommodating the number of migrants that are being sent better than these other cities that you talked about. There will be other cities in the future that also will be on the receiving end of migrants, because we will continue to have to move migrants because Joe Biden continues to allow more illegal immigrants to come into the state of Texas.
Thank you, Governor. My colleague Gromer Jeffers has the next question.
Thank you, Steve, and hello, gentlemen. Good to see you both.
You too, Gromer.
Let's pivot now to the topic of gun control. Following the Uvalde massacre, many community members made this one specific plea. Here's one student who survived the shooting at Robb Elementary.
You have to be 21 to buy a case of beer, but an 18-year-old bought a gun to kill kids. That does not make sense.
To be clear, That's a call to raise the age limit to buy an AR-15 style weapon from 18 to 21. A Republican governor in Florida broke with the NRA to sign this into law after the Parkland mass shooting. Governor Abbott, you say this can't be done in Texas. Mr. O'Rourke, you say it will be done if you're elected. Can you please explain your positions? Let's start with you, Governor Abbott. You have 60 seconds.
First, there's no reason why a little girl like that should ever have to say anything like that. There's a reason why these parents are angry, and they're rightfully angry, and I can feel their pain. No parent should lose a child, and we want to do everything we can to make sure that does not happen. We want to end school shootings, but we cannot do that by making false promises. It's a false promise to suggest that we can pass a law that will be upheld by the Constitution to raise the age, and here's why. The most recent Federal Court of Appeals decision on this particular issue said that it was unconstitutional for a state to raise the age from 18 to 21 for a person to buy an AR-15. So any attempt to try to raise the age is going to be met with it being overturned. So we need to get to the bottom of what is really ailing our communities, and that is the mental health that is leading people to engage in school shootings. And Texas is already addressing that.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up, Governor. Take 15 seconds to answer this. You're a former Attorney General. You've never shied away from a legal fight. Are you against this proposal because you feel like it's unconstitutional, or you believe that it's unnecessary? You personally believe that it's unnecessary? Purely from a legal position, based upon what that Court of Appeals decision ruled, and importantly, based upon what the Supreme Court decision said in a June opinion that changed the way that Parkland case was determined. I know how the Parkland case was determined. Florida is going to have its law overturned because of this new Supreme Court decision. Thank you, Governor. Mr. O'Rourke, in 60 seconds, can you please explain your position on raising the age limit to purchase AR-15 style weapons?
First of all, I'm going to follow the lead of those families from Uvalde. That's who I'm doing this for. In fact, many of them drove more than 5 hours, 280 miles to be here today, even though they're not allowed in this theater because of the governor's conditions, because they want to hold him accountable, because it's been 18 weeks since their kids have been killed, and not a thing has changed in this state to make it any less likely that any other child will meet the same fate. All we need is action, and the only person standing in our way is the governor of the state of Texas. In Florida, after the Parkland shootings, it was 23 days for that Republican governor to raise the age. And in those states where the age has been raised, mass shootings are down 80%. So yes, we can raise the age to 21. And as governor, I'll bring Republicans and Democrats around the table to do that. After all of these mass shootings, this governor has done nothing except make it easier for people who should not have a firearm to carry them publicly, and this is what we get as a result. We need change.
Governor Abbott, the last time you ran for governor, we asked you about red flag laws, and those are laws which could stop an individual with potential intention to harm others from purchasing a gun. And you said about that, quote, "I would not support a red flag law that would take guns away from people without due process." Now, a lot has happened in those 4 years. Are you open to implementing red flag laws today? You have 30 seconds.
Well, let me tell you what I support and I don't support. What I support is making it a felony for someone to lie on a background check. I signed that into law last year. I approve of expanding background checks to include juvenile records. Also approve of making it a crime for criminal gangs to buy or to possess a gun. But I'm still against red flag laws for the reason that it would deny a lawful Texas gun owner their constitutional right to due process.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. O'Rourke, you have been criticized at times for your positions on gun control, including this comment you made in 2019 while running for president.
Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
But in February, you told reporters in Tyler that you were, quote, not interested in taking anything away from anyone. So which is it, Mr. O'Rourke? Are you for confiscating AR-15 style weapons or not? You have 30 seconds.
After losing 23 of my neighbors to somebody armed with a weapon of war, after talking to these families who could only identify their children in Uvalde by the shoes that they were wearing, it's clear to me that the only place that an AR-15 or an AK-47 makes sense is on a battlefield. But as governor of the state of Texas, I need to be focused on what we can get done. Raising the minimum age of purchase to 21, we can get that done. A red flag law, we'll get that done. Universal background checks, we will get that done. We'll make progress and take action where this governor has failed.
Thank you, Mr. Rourke. So just to be clear, yes or no, are you for confiscating AR-15 style weapons?
I'm for making sure that we make progress. Those families that I was just with from Uvalde want us to take action. This is the common ground. I've listened to Republicans and Democrats alike on this. We can agree on this much. Raise the age to 21,
okay.
red flag law, and universal background check.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Steve has the next question.
Thank you, Gromer. We want to focus in now more on the Uvalde shooting. A gunman killed 19 children and 2 adults. Its effects, though, go far beyond Uvalde. Mr. O'Rourke, I want you to speak to parents of victims and really all parents statewide worried about their children's safety at school. What would you do if elected to prevent this from happening again? You have 60 seconds.
Just like you, I'm a parent. With Amy, we're raising Ulysses and Molly and Henry in El Paso, and we are well aware that it's been 18 weeks, and this governor has not lifted a finger to make it any less likely that any of our kids will meet that same fate. We need change. The governor just talked about mental health care. We are dead last in the nation when it comes to mental health care access, and he took $211 million from the mental health care budget of the state of Texas. He'll talk about police funding. He failed to fund the police radios in Uvalde, even when that police department asked for them. And you know what? Those radios failed on that day. I want every parent out there to know that the lives of your children are more important to me than the NRA or any special interest or any other political consideration. I will prioritize them ahead of everything else, and we will take action and we will make progress. We'll bring Republicans, Democrats, independents alike together, and we'll get the job done where this governor has failed to do so.
Governor Abbott, to you now. The families of the victims, the Uvalde School District, the Uvalde County Commissioners, the Uvalde City Council all asked for you to call a special session in the wake of the tragedy. You did not, despite calling them on several other issues in the past. Can you explain why you didn't call a special session? You have 60 seconds.
I will, but I must first respond to what we have to respond to every single day. Beto's campaign continues to spew lies and false information. He said 2 things that are completely false. He said that we're last in mental health care. The fact of the matter is Texas is now 27th in mental health care because of funding that I provided. Texas has provided more than $25 billion for mental health care in the last 3 sessions. He also said that we did not fund police radios in Uvalde. Completely false. We provided $1.6 million for Uvalde alone for their police radio systems since I've been governor. So Beto continues to provide false information. What I want to make sure that the leaders in Uvalde know is, as we've shown, we don't need to call a special session in order to take action. For 6 consecutive days after the shooting took place, I issued directives to make schools safer and to respond to the emergency in Uvalde. And then I remain engaged with the mayor, with the local leaders.
It could have been worse. That's what you told those families. That's what you told that community, and you have done nothing to help them.
Mr. O'Rourke,
Mr. Governor,
we're not done with this topic yet, so you will have your say. But Governor, I want to follow up with you. There's a regular session coming up in January. Will you make school safety an emergency item for lawmakers when they meet? You have 15 seconds.
Absolutely. Just like I did in past sessions. This is going to be an emergency item. Over the summer, I requested special legislative committees to begin working already so that they will have ready when we begin the session to address Uvalde, but the broader-based issue across the entire state of Texas,
if it's an emergency,
as you
call
mentioned
a special
earlier.
session now. Why wait till the next year?
Mr. O'Rourke, a question for you now.
Gun violence is the leading cause of death for children and teenagers in this state. Why are you waiting to save lives?
We need to move on. We've got a lot of topics we want to get to, but we want to stay on Uvalde because there's still some questions that we have here. So I appreciate you staying within your time. Mr. O'Rourke, Uvalde School District Police Chief Pete Arredondo, who led the initial law enforcement response at Robb Elementary, was fired. Is there anyone else who should be held accountable for the mistakes made in that hallway in Robb Elementary that day? You have 30 seconds.
The governor said it himself in an interview to Gromer Jeffers last month. There should be accountability up and down the ballot, beginning with Greg Abbott. I think he has lost the right to serve this state in the most important position of public trust. Furthermore, we know that there were 91 DPS troopers for whom he is responsible who were on the other side of an unlocked door, some for more than 70 minutes. There is a complete failure to hold people responsible accountable. Those families still do not have justice. As governor, I will make it my priority.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor, now to you.
There was it. Go ahead.
I'll give you 15 seconds if you want to respond to what he said.
I was going to answer the question I thought you were going to ask me. But
I've got another question for you. Right after the shooting, you said this.
But the reality is, as horrible as what happened, it could have been worse.
It could have been worse. You heard Mr. O'Rourke bring it up. You later said you were misled about what happened inside Robb Elementary. If my memory serves me right, that was the day after. So we were just moments after what had happened. Who misled you, and will they be held accountable? You have 30 seconds.
Everyone in that briefing room that provided me the information about what law enforcement did, what that comment was based upon was information by law enforcement about all the children in all the other classrooms that they evacuated during the time when the shooter was on the campus. What they did not tell me at the time, however, was that there were dozens, if not more, of other law enforcement that were hanging around in the hallway for over an hour without engaging in the Columbine protocol and going in and immediately removing that shooter, which is what they were supposed to do. And because they failed to do that, there does need to be accountability, not just for Pete Arredondo, but also for local law enforcement. DPS officers are under investigation as we speak right now. There needs to be accountability for law enforcement at every level for not following the Columbine protocol.
You will be sure to hold DPS troopers accountable.
Yes,
as governor.
In a word, yes. But second, there are at least 7 who are under investigation as we speak right now, 2 of whom are on suspension as we speak right now. And so I expect DPS officers and law enforcement across the state to follow the Columbine protocol.
Governor, the buck stops on your desk. You blame everyone else. You blame Joe Biden for other issues.
We need to move on.
You blame people for misleading
topics,
you.
and actually,
You are misleading this state.
Sally will ask the next question.
I do, and I think you're both going to want to talk about this next topic. It's the topic of abortion. A recent Next Star, Emerson College, and the Hill poll shows more than half of those polled say they are more likely to vote in this election because of the overturning of Roe versus Wade. You both are very outspoken on this issue, but what I want to do tonight is really drill down on specifics. Governor Abbott, you recently sat down with my friend Gromer over here and you talked about what women can do if they are victims of rape or incest. And here's a clip of that interview.
Those victims can access health care immediately as well as to report it. Both of those have very meaningful consequences. By accessing health care immediately, they can get the Plan B pill that can prevent a pregnancy from occurring in the first place.
Some healthcare advocates say emergency contraception like Plan B is often unavailable or it's too costly for women to afford. And trauma could prevent them from taking emergency contraception in the time frame that it's effective. So, Governor, we're going to start with you. With these concerns that I just laid out, is emergency contraception a viable alternative to abortion for victims of rape and incest? And you have 60 seconds, sir.
Sure. So to directly answer the topics that you raised, on the availability of it, it's incumbent upon the state of Texas to make sure that it is readily available. For those who are victims of sexual assault or survivors of sexual assault, the state of Texas pays for that, whether it be at a hospital, at a clinic, or for someone who gets a prescription because of it. And so not only should be readily available, but the state of Texas is going to pay for it to make sure that it is available for them.
But Governor, 30 seconds, or I'll give you 30 seconds to answer this one. I still want to know, is Plan B the alternative when it comes to somebody who is pregnant from rape or incest?
Well, it depends on what you mean by alternative. An alternative, obviously, is to do what we can to assist and aid the victim, and that is to help get them medical assistance that they need and the care that they need, but also to know what their options are. They're going to know that the state, through our Alternatives to Abortion program, provides living assistance, baby supplies, all kinds of things that can help them. Also, we've increased funding for prenatal and postpartum care.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. O'Rourke, we're going to stay on the topic of abortion here. Governor Abbott has said that you support abortion on demand. Do you support any limit on when a woman can have an abortion? In 60 seconds for this question.
This election is about reproductive freedom. If you care about this, you need to turn out and vote. I will fight to make sure that every woman in Texas can make her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. And I will work with the legislature and my fellow Texans to return us to the standard that Texas women won in the first place, Roe versus Wade. That's the standard that answers your question. But I've got to respond to this silliness on Plan B, this comment he made about eliminating rape in the state of Texas. This is an attack on women. More women have been raped in the state of Texas than any other state. There are 3,000 untested rape kits at DPS headquarters, meaning that our ability to bring rapists to justice has declined by half on this governor's watch. And it's arguable that rapists enjoy more victims, because more rights under Greg Abbott than their victims do, because they can sue the families of their victims if they help their victim get an abortion and be able to win a $10,000 bounty in the process.
Thank you. Mr. O'Rourke, I'll give you a chance to respond, Governor. 30 seconds.
So once again, I'm going to be doing this a lot. I have to point out a misstatement by Beto. I signed a law that eliminated the rape kit test backlog at the Texas Department of Public Safety. As it concerns abortion, Beto's position is the most extreme, because he not only supports abortion of a fully developed child to the very last second before birth, he's even against providing medical care for a baby who survives an abortion. He is for unlimited abortion at taxpayer expense.
That's not true. It's completely a lie. I never said that, and no one thinks that in the state of Texas. He's saying this because he signed the most extreme abortion ban in America. No exception for rape, no exception for incest. It begins at conception, and it's taking place in a state that is at the epicenter of a maternal mortality crisis, thanks to Greg Abbott, 3 times as deadly for black women. I will fight to make sure that every woman makes her own decisions about her own body, her own future, and her own health care. That's what most of us, Republicans and Democrats in this state, believe.
Mr. O'Rourke, just in 15 seconds, is there a limit that you support on women getting an abortion?
That limit was decided in 1973 through a victory that Jane Roe and Linda Coffey and Sarah Weddington won before an all-male United States Supreme Court. I want us to return to that. It was the law of the land for nearly 50 years until we had the most extreme abortion ban in the country.
Gromer has the next question.
Thanks, Sally. Let's move to law enforcement. Mr. O'Rourke, you have been accused by Governor Abbott of supporting efforts to defund police. He may have mentioned it tonight, actually. Here's a chance for you to set the record straight. Do you support measures to defund police? You have 60 seconds.
Of course I don't, and no one does. But let's look at my record. I think that's the best thing to look at, and then we'll look at the governors. On the El Paso City Council, I raised police salaries 12% in the 6 years that I served there. In Congress, I funded $11 billion to local and state law enforcement across this country, including in Texas. I want to fund law enforcement, fund training so that everyone is treated equally under the law, and I want there to be accountability for when those officers abuse the public trust. But let's look at what Greg Abbott's done. When police and law enforcement begged him not to sign permitless carry, because it allows anyone to carry a gun in public without a background check, he turned his back on them, did it anyhow. Homicides have gone up 50%, and we now have gun violence as a leading cause of death for children and teenagers in this state. When the Uvalde Police Department asked for funding, he turned his back on them. He is not doing what keeps us safe. That's why you see the level of rape, violent crime, and homicide up on Greg Abbott's watch.
Just a quick follow-up, Mr. O'Rourke. Can you take 15 seconds to answer this? After the summer of 2020, did you voice support for cities that cut their police budgets? Minneapolis comes to mind. Did you support those efforts?
What I supported and what I continue to support is full funding for law enforcement, full funding that includes training to ensure that we're treating everyone equally under the law, and we definitely need accountability and justice. If someone abuses the power of life and death over our fellow citizens without accountability, we lose the ability to keep our communities safe.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor Abbott, you have spoken about the growing crime in Texas in your commercials and on the campaign trail. You've been governor for more than 7 years. So why is crime up? Don't you bear some of the responsibility for it?
So I'll fully answer that question. Let me first...
You have 60 seconds, by the way.
Let me reply, and that is, once again, Beto misleads by saying that we denied Uvalde Police Department any money. We've answered every call they've ever made to make sure they have whatever funding they need. And Beto clearly said that in response to Minneapolis, that he supports their idea of defunding and dismantling police. And I got to add this. He didn't say a word to criticize the city of Austin that defunded their police by more than $100 million. The law I passed will prevent any city from defunding the police because in Texas, we support our law enforcement officers, period. The reason why there's been a rise in crime in some areas, Gromer, is because of another issue we're working on. And that's what's happening in Harris County and some other counties where in Harris County, they have these easy bail policies that Beto supports, which is cashless bail, that is letting dangerous criminals, such as people recently convicted of murder last year, back out on the streets now who killed a police officer recently in Houston, Texas.
Governor, take 15 seconds to answer this again. You've been governor for 7 years. Crime is up. Do you bear any responsibility for that?
So let me again explain what happened. In Austin, after they defunded the police, the year after that, they had the highest number of murders ever. In Harris County, where they have this easy bail policy, in the past couple of years, there have been hundreds of people killed by people let out on bail who had been previously arrested for murder.
Thank you, Governor. Our next topic comes from one of our viewers. Actually, Britt has more on that.
Yes, Gromer, thank you so much. Candidates, I have our first viewer question for you. And just so you know, we use this as a jumping off point to then craft our own question for you. So here is Douglas Tyler out of Hayes County with his question. Douglas.
Governor, what steps would you take to ensure that there's not another ERCOT failure like we had during the winter of 2021? How would you increase the generation capacity and reliability? Is it time for Texas to face reality and join the rest of the country in the cooperative grid system?
Okay, clearly Douglas asked a lot of questions about the grid. Many Texans have similar questions, so we're going to break them down one by one. And for that, I will send it back over to my colleague, Steve.
Thank you, Britt. And I want to thank Douglas for that question. And Governor Abbott, first for you. Following the outages in February of 2021, the legislature passed 18 different pieces of legislation aimed at improving the grid. An energy expert, Ed Hers from the University of Houston, said last month, quote, "No question the grid's better than it was at this time last year. The governor says it's never been more reliable. But if you're getting up off the floor, any kind of movement is better than what it was," end quote. Governor Abbott, what do you make of that assessment of the state grid? Are you confident in its reliability? You have 60 seconds.
Very confident. In fact, I even guaranteed the power would stay on before we faced that winter afterwards. When Beto was campaigning saying that the grid was going to fail in the winter and summer, his campaign hopes fell apart because the laws that I signed did secure the grid. Ever since I signed those reform laws, no Texan has lost power because of the Texas power grid. And know this, Steve, and that is this summer we set 11 new all-time records for heat. Time and again, the power grid was able to keep up, and it's because of the reforms we were able to make. And so the power grid remains more resilient, more reliable than ever before. To go ahead and answer Douglas's question, which we appreciate, one reason why it's more reliable is because we have greater power available to us and a greater ability by the Public Utilities Commission to address it. But also, we are going to be adding more non-renewable power, such as natural gas, to make sure that the power stays on.
Thank you, Governor. Mr. O'Rourke, same question. You know, there hasn't been any major issues with the grid, with outages since the winter of 2021. What do you make of the changes that Governor Abbott and the legislature put in to make the grid more reliable? They say more reliable. What would you do differently? You have 60 seconds.
Governor Abbott's grid failure is part of a pattern over these last 8 years. Warned about, for example, school violence and gun violence specifically against children, does nothing. Warned about problems within Child Protective Services, our foster care program, does nothing, and it gets worse. Warned before February 2021 that we had problems in the grid, he did nothing. When the blackout started, he ordered the price of electricity pegged at its highest allowable rate. Gas started trading at 200 times what it had sold for the day before. Now we are all paying $45 more on average in our monthly utility bills. It's the Abbott tax that all of us pay. 700 of our fellow Texans lost their lives because of his incompetence and his inability to do what was necessary before February of 2021. And the kicker is the grid is still not fixed. Just ask Toyota. They stopped their third shift in San Antonio because it was drawing too much power. We had 3 conservation notices this summer. We are not ready for this next winter. We need a governor who's going to do the right thing.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor, I'll give you 30 seconds.
Sure. All Beto does is fearmonger on this issue, when in reality, the grid is more resilient and reliable than it's ever been. I do want to respond to the price because, importantly, Texans need to know this, and that is, after Uri, after the reforms that we passed, Texas has one of the lowest electricity prices in the country, far below the national average, and less than half of what the electricity price is in California.
It's one of the fastest growing costs in the state of Texas. And when you look at our higher energy bills, our higher property taxes, $20 billion more under Greg Abbott, you see that he's the largest driver of inflation in the state of Texas right now.
I'll give you 15 seconds, Governor.
Sure. So he just makes this stuff up because,
that's all fact.
Again, the reality is the electricity cost in Texas remains one of the lowest in the entire United States of America and far lower than the national average.
Ask the people who are paying it.
Thank you, gentlemen. Sally has the next question.
Got to talk about education tonight, gentlemen, okay? There's a lot of teachers who are watching and who would like to know the answer to this next question. Texas school districts are hampered by an unprecedented teacher retention crisis. A Texas teacher workforce report reveals there were more than 13,000 new teachers in Texas for the start of the 2010-2011 school year. Okay, look at that number. Flash forward to the 2019-2020 school year. Less than half of those teachers remained. Former teachers cited everything from pay to burnout to safety as problems. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to start with you for this next question. How are you going to keep qualified teachers in the classroom? And you have 60 seconds.
I mentioned earlier that Amy and I are raising our 3 children in El Paso, where they attend the world-class public schools there. And we know firsthand the important job that those educators do. And I want every educator out there to know that I've got your back. And I'm going to make sure that we pay you enough not to work a second or a third job. Because of Greg Abbott, our teachers are underpaid on average by $7,500 a year. I'm going to ensure that you have more valuable classroom time to connect with those kids. So we're going to stop the STAR test and allow you to focus on drawing forth that lifelong love of learning from every child before you. For our retired teachers, I'll make sure you have a cost of living adjustment every single year going forward. You haven't had one in 18 years, 8 of those on Greg Abbott's watch. And most importantly, I will treat you with the dignity and respect that you have earned and that you deserve. You sacrifice and give so much to our kids and to this state. We need to make sure we're holding up our end of the bargain. As governor, I will.
30 seconds to respond to this follow-up. You say that you do support teachers. Do you support giving them a pay raise if you're elected? And if so, how are you going to pay for that?
Absolutely, I want to give them a pay raise. I want to make sure, again, that they're not working that second or third job. What I propose to do, and there's Republican and Democratic support for this, is raise the state's share of school funding. Right now, we ask property taxpayers, the homeowners and renters out there, to shoulder the majority of the burden. I want to make sure that the state is shouldering its fair share. We do that, we can reduce your property taxes at home and provide more funding for our schools, increase teacher pay, and more per pupil funding in every district in Texas.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Governor Abbott, same question. How are you going to keep qualified teachers in the classroom is the question. Can you answer that for me in 30 seconds?
I will, but I got to say that raise the state share of education funding is exactly what we did both in 2019 and 2021. In fact, I provided more funding for education than any governor in Texas history. I provided more funding for teacher pay raises than any governor in Texas history. As we gather here tonight, Sally, the per pupil funding in the state of Texas is at the highest that's ever been. So we will work with the teachers to make sure. I created a new program. I can tell you about.
I'm going to give you 30 more seconds. This is your 60-second answer. Go ahead.
I created a new program that provides a 6-figure salary
for teachers. More than $100,000. It was used very effectively and broadly in the Dallas County or Dallas Independent School District area, and it's catching on around the state. If teachers will dedicate themselves to be these master teachers, they will be able to earn a six-figure salary.
Educators watching tonight, 15 seconds or less, are you going to give them a pay raise if you are reelected?
Yes, just as we have given them a pay raise in the past, we will continue those pay raises going forward.
He's been governor for 8 years. They're still underpaid $7,500 against their national counterparts. Per pupil funding
let me give you 15 seconds.
down.
Go ahead. I'll give you 15 seconds, but we can't talk over each other. Go ahead.
Per pupil funding in this state is $4,000 less than our counterparts across the country. Educational attainment is at an all-time low pre-pandemic. In the average fourth grade classroom in Texas, most of those fourth graders could not read at grade level.
Up, Mr.
We need to
O'Rourke.
get the backs of those teachers.
Time is up. We're going to go to Gromer for the next question.
Thank you, Sally. The next two questions are personal questions directed to each of you only. There will be no opportunities for rebuttals. So let's start with you, Governor Abbott. University of Houston political scientist Brandon Rottinghouse said the following, quote, "In Texas politics, it's adapt or die. Greg Abbott didn't start his career as a right-wing Republican, but he certainly ended up there." Governor Abbott, you signed a law banning nearly all abortions without exceptions for rape or incest, and a law allowing the permitless carry of firearms. Critics, including some members of your own party, say you have moved too far to the right. Have you moved too far to the right, Governor? You have 60 seconds.
Well, let's look at the issues that you brought up, and that is, for one, as a Catholic, and my wife and I, we've been pro-life our entire lives, so much so that it grew even stronger when we adopted our daughter. On the day she was born, I was the very first person to hold her after she was born, and I've seen firsthand the power that adoption can have, and it just further strengthened my belief in the power of giving life to every child possible, seeing how it can happen so successfully. I want others to be able to have that same sense of joy, not only that my wife and I have had, but also that our daughter has had. In general, one thing that we've been able to achieve across the entire state of Texas, we've ensured that we provide opportunity for everybody. Grover, as we gather here tonight, Texas ranks #1 in jobs created by black business owners and jobs created by Hispanic women business owners.
Governor Abbott, just 10 more seconds. Have you moved too far to the right, though, in recent years?
And what I tried to explain to you, Gromer, is that I'm governing from principles. I'm not looking at changing and constantly flip-flopping positions like other people do. I'm governing from my principles.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor Abbott. Mr. O'Rourke, you served as a congressman from West Texas from 2013 to 2018. Since then, you had a close but unsuccessful run for Senate against Ted Cruz in 2018. 2 years later, in 2020, you had an unsuccessful run for president. Now you're running for governor. Why have you run for so many different offices? Is it about ambition or public service? You have 60 seconds.
You know, I feel so lucky that through so much of my life I've had the opportunity to serve others. As a small business owner in El Paso, Texas, creating high-skill, high-wage, high-value jobs in our community. As a member of the City Council, as a member of Congress on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, delivering for those who put their lives on the line for this country, for all of us. It has been the honor of my lifetime. And now to run, to be able to overcome these failures that we see in Texas right now, whether it's a grid that doesn't work, teachers who are leaving the profession by the thousands, leading the nation in a number of school shootings, being able to deliver for people who are counting on us at this moment of truth to make sure that we come through. And it's not just me, and it's not just my political party. There are hundreds of thousands of people across the state of Texas who want change and are working for it. And it's my honor to be able to lead this campaign and to serve as the next governor of this state to make sure that we deliver for them.
Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. Let's go back to Britt now for another topic inspired by a viewer question.
Yes, another viewer question for you tonight, candidates. And we did use this to then craft our own question as a heads up. So first, that initial question from a Nexstar News Nation viewer. It's from Missy Pena out of New Braunfels. Here's Missy.
What are your plans to help get mortgage rates under control and make sure that housing stays affordable for everyone to avoid the issues we had in 08, 09, where everyone was losing their homes to foreclosure.
Now we have our own question that includes things on property taxes, and for that, I will send it over to Steve.
Thank you, Britt, and thank you, Missy, for that great question. You know, property taxes make up a hefty amount of most people's mortgages in the state of Texas. Mr. O'Rourke, I want to ask you this question first. The governor's proposed using half of the $27 billion budget surplus to provide what he says is the largest property tax cut in state history. That does not relieve the long-term property tax burden that many Texas residents feel. How would you provide long-term property tax relief? You have 60 seconds.
You know, about the governor's proposal, you have to ask yourself where this guy's been for the last 8 years. People across this state are hurting. The average Texan now is paying more in taxes than the average Californian. When you combine that with his failure in the grid that has sent our energy bills through the roof and the cost of housing, he's the single greatest driver of inflation in the state of Texas. This is how we can turn it around. One, let's expand Medicaid. We'll go from a state that's the least insured to one where everyone can see a doctor or be able to fill a prescription. It will also reduce our property taxes because right now you are on the hook for uncompensated indigent care. Two, let's up the share of state spending for public ed. I talked about it earlier. The state spends 40%, local property taxpayers 60%. Under my leadership, we'll get that to 50-50, reduce the pressure on local property taxpayers. And third, let's make sure that there's property tax fairness. Corporations in this state are not paying their fair share. That means all of us pay more.
Thank you, sir. Governor Abbott, I want to ask you the same question. How do you provide long-term property tax relief? You also have 60 seconds.
Sure. So property tax relief is central to this election and to Texans at home, just like Missy. And know this, there's only one person on this stage tonight who's ever raised property taxes, and that is Beto. Beto raised property taxes 3 times when he was on the city council in El Paso. I will never raise property taxes. And one thing he knows also, and that is the state of Texas does not levy a property tax. That's only done at the local level. And so what the state of Texas has done, and we will continue to do, is to drive down the ability of the local governments from being able to raise taxes. And I'm the only one with a bold vision for actually cutting property taxes, as you pointed out. Because of our strong economy in Texas, we have a budget surplus of $27 billion. I want to use at least half of that $27 billion to drive down property tax rates. Steve, it can be done in a long-term basis if we use that to lower the school property tax component.
Thank you, sir.
He raised my name in that.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you 15 seconds.
Thank you. Like many local leaders, we have to deal with unfunded mandates sent down by Greg Abbott. That's our mental health care system, where the county jails are the largest provider of mental health care services, our schools. As governor, I'll make sure that we expand Medicaid so we reduce that demand and up the share of state spending. That's how we get this done.
I want to move on because this is an important topic, and we've got a lot of things we want to try to get to in this short hour. Mr. O'Rourke, you say you would take the burden off property tax owners by creating other revenue streams, most notably legalizing marijuana, expanding Medicaid, and closing loopholes enjoyed by commercial property owners. But how will you get those proposals through a Republican-controlled legislature? 30 seconds.
Republicans and Democrats alike across this state want to make sure that we reduce property taxes. I think we all have a vested interest in that outcome. They also agree on common sense bipartisan solutions. Expanding Medicaid, all that means is getting $10 billion back of our federal income taxes to this state to reduce our property taxes. Why Greg Abbott has not done it when every border state has is beyond me. Making sure that we legalize marijuana so we no longer spend $500 million locking people up and forgo another $500 million in revenue, again, makes no sense.
Thank you,
Let's
sir.
legalize marijuana and get this
We
done.
need to move on because I want to make sure that we give the governor a chance to answer my next question. Your campaign team has said since taking office, property taxes have been reduced by $18 billion. Yet those reductions have not kept pace with rising property values that increase the taxes homeowners pay. How do you solve this problem without introducing additional revenue streams? You have 30 seconds.
Sure. So one way that we have reduced property taxes is through those homestead exemptions. Another way that we've done it is by buying down the property tax rate at the school district level. And what I propose to do with this $13 $1.5 billion, if not more, is to drive down those property tax rates even further. My goal is to eliminate the school property tax that's imposed in the state of Texas so that people can genuinely own their own home without being taxed out of it.
Mr. O'Rourke, I want to give you 15 seconds.
He's had 8 years to get this done. If it's such a good idea, why are we talking about another 4 years to accomplish that? I will reduce your property taxes as governor. This guy has raised them by $20 billion, 40% increase since he first took office. You want more property taxes, vote for Greg Abbott.
Governor, I'm going to give you 15 seconds.
So anybody who knows anything knows the state does not raise property taxes. The only reason why it would have gone up is because of valuations. That would mean that I get credit for the biggest enrichment that people have had. I will not take that. One thing we have to do to add on top of it, we need to reduce the appraisals. We've got to completely change the appraisal system.
Thank you, sir. We're running out of time. Let's actually throw it over to Britt now.
Thank you, and thank you, gentlemen. You made it. That's all the time we have for questions tonight, and now it's time for your closing statement. So, Mr. O'Rourke, we'll start with you tonight. 30 seconds for your closing statement. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Look, I don't think that Greg Abbott wakes up wanting to see children shot in their schools or for the grid to fail, but it's clear that he's incapable or unwilling to make the changes necessary to prioritize the lives of our fellow Texans. That's why it's on all of us to make sure that we have change at the ballot box this November 8th. I'll keep your lights on. I'll make sure that I keep your kids safe. We'll reduce property taxes, and we'll prioritize the lives of each and every single Texan in this state.
Mr. O'Rourke, thank you so much. Now, Governor Abbott, your 30 seconds starts now.
Texas ranks #1 for the most new jobs added since you reelected me. We're #1 for blue ribbon schools, #1 for Tier 1 research universities, and #1 in so many categories. I'm running for re-election to keep Texas #1, to cut your property taxes, to secure the border, to keep dangerous criminals behind bars, and to keep deadly fentanyl off our streets. Together, we will keep Texas #1.
Governor Abbott, thank you so much. And that concludes our debate tonight. I want to thank the candidates and our moderators for being here with us tonight and for participating. I also want to thank the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley for hosting us here in South Texas tonight. Up next, you will be able to watch the Texas governor's race post-debate speech. Now, you can watch this online or right here. If you don't see it, check your local listing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And to all of Texas, good night and take care.
Tonight's gubernatorial debate is sponsored by AARP Texas. Your vote, your voice. Get voting information at aarp.org/txvotes.